Welcome once again to Politics and Religion. We have a very important subject today. Our guest is Mr. Brad O'Leary, and he's the author of America's War on Christianity. It's going to be an interesting subject today. You will learn some things that you have not previously known, and so I know that you're going to enjoy our program today. We're going to get right to our guest, and I believe he's on the line with us right now. Mr. O'Leary, are you with us here on Politics and Religion?
Delighted to be with you today.
Hey, thank you so very much. I believe this is the first time we've had the honor of having you on our program. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've done a lot of things. I've been a restaurant owner. I've been in politics for a good period of time. I've had a radio show on Westwood One. I've produced some television shows, and do polling and dabble in a lot of things that I'd probably be more successful if I just stayed focused to the ones that seem to make me money. But when it comes to writing, I've written 15 books, and I think there's just messages that people have to stand up and say, whether it's earns money or not. We live in tough times, and they get tougher all the time when we have to fight for our religious values.
Well, you know, Brad, we're living in the information age, and the pen still is mightier than the sword, contrary to what a lot of people think. So this book you've written, I have a copy of it in my hand right now, America's War on Christianity. I think it's a vital book, and I certainly do recommend it to all of our listeners. I'll give you a chance after a while to tell them how they can get a copy. But there's a lot of things that we don't know. The average person may read a little something here or there, but when you see it all compiled in one volume, a lot of the things that have happened, it does set the alarm bells off in our mind. And that's what I want to do today. I'd like for us to talk about some of the specific things that you talk about in this book, America's War on Christianity. It's just absolutely astounding that things that we took for granted growing up, that this is a Christian nation. I'll never forget how it clanged on my ears when I heard President Obama say, America is not a Christian nation. I just wanted to stand up and say, time out. That's simply not true. So anyway, those are some of the things that you deal with. Let's get right to it. I noticed on page 11 that there was a statement that religious speech is protected against the hate crime bill unless the government has a compelling interest in disallowing the religious speech. Now, when they were passing this hate crime bill, of course, they did it crookedly by attaching it to a must-pass funding bill, but they slipped it through the Senate knowing that they could not get it through on an up-and-down vote on its own strength. So they slipped it through, and they supposedly assured us that this hate crime bill, which includes sexual orientation as a protected class, then they assured us that this would not affect preachers preaching their convictions from the pulpit and people expressing their convictions, their religious convictions against homosexuality. Now, is that really true, or what's that really all about?
Well, it's a loophole that they put in to take away free speech. The bill refused to exclude any of the 547 forms of sexual deviance or even pedophilia outlined by the American Psychiatric Association. In fact, it listed them all as protected. And which do you believe, the Constitution, which you're going to have to go to court to look for your rights, or the fact that if you commit a hate crime and it results in someone injuring or hurting themselves, you could be an accessory to murder? And it's up to the courts to decide. And you don't really commit a hate crime. You commit a hate thought crime or hate speech crime. So no, you are under this bill. You are not protected, and we've seen the draconian things that have happened to ministers in Great Britain and in Canada for speaking up. There's one minister in Canada that spoke up, said what he thought, and he was convicted of a hate thought or a hate crime. And among other things he was sentenced to is, I think it was 300 hours of community service that he had to spend with a Muslim imam to be retaught what he could think about Islam.
Brad, let's talk about the hate crime thing for a little bit, because a lot of Americans don't really understand the danger of this. During 2009, hate crime legislation was expanded to include sexual orientation, and the gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender community just really felt like that was a huge triumph. But let's talk a minute about hate crime legislation itself. Should there even be any hate crime legislation?
Not when it comes to thought or speech. There just shouldn't be. I mean, the ultimate goal here is to not only put Christian radio out of business, but to put those people like Rush Limbaugh, who speak their minds, out of business for speaking their minds.
Okay, so now if, let's say there's a murder, and let's say that the person is convicted of committing murder. They're going to be punished according to the laws that have jurisdiction, whether it's the state or the Fed, whatever is applicable. But if that person committed murder and they find on his computer rantings against, say, blacks or Japanese or some protected area, let's say homosexuals, then it's my understanding that their punishment will be increased by a certain amount. And so they will become more punished for their motive than another person would be just for killing someone. Now, it looks like to me there's got to be a level of hate in anybody's heart if they're going to go to the drastic action of killing someone. But once you move to try to determine what a person is believing or what a person is thinking, then are you in fact penalizing beliefs rather than actions?
Sure. And if you go to this person's computer and you play up a lot of thoughts of their pastor or a talk radio host on that computer, you find it on that computer, then it's the next step is making the person that encouraged him, quote, to commit the crime, to be guilty of the crime as well.
Okay, now...
And that's the goal here. The goal here is to intimidate everyone to the extent that they'll be afraid to say what they believe.
Well, you know, I'm a talk show host. I'm on the air 5 days a week for 1 hour. I have been for the last 12 years. And I'll never forget the first day after some of this was passed. I felt a certain amount of caution, restraint, when the subject of homosexuality come up. And when I realized what was happening, I made up in my mind right then, I will not back off. I will not be intimidated, because once you start being intimidated and you stop exerting your freedom of speech, that's the sure path to losing it. But what you're saying is, it is your opinion that if I speak strongly, let's say against homosexuality, I am very strong against it. I believe it's directly against God. I believe it's a horrible rot on our society, and it is going to destroy America if we don't get back to biblical values. So if I would say that strongly, and then some unbalanced person takes my words, gets angry, and goes out and gets their gun and kills someone, are you saying that I could be implicated for that crime?
Yes, indeed. And also it gives the other side the right to vehemently and hysterically attack you and not find anything that you can do about it, because they've labeled you a hate minister. The Southern Poverty Council just labeled 18 Christian groups as hate groups. The City Council in San Francisco labeled the Catholic Church as a hate organization because of their resisting opening the doors for many of their operations to people of a different sexual agenda.
But if a person labels me a hate voice, that really doesn't bother me too much. I don't like it, but they have freedom to call me whatever name they want to call me. But it's when it takes on legal ramifications where I might be arrested and hauled off to jail, or I might be sued and have to pay out a lot of money to defend my position by paying lawyers and so on. That's when it starts crossing the line. You know, in America, we have freedom of speech. At least we have up to this time. And this is a precious.
We don't have freedom of speech.
Say that again?
We don't have freedom of speech. The courts have repeatedly stood up for the government. And this is another instance where the courts will stand up for the government. You know, you've got a lot of people out there who are sending their kids to college, and the colleges they go to all say, come to this campus because you'll have complete freedom of speech. Yet 73% of all college campuses in the United States have speech guides. And if you break them, you're out.
Now, wait a minute. You said 70, how many percent?
73%.
They actually have speech guides?
Speech guides, things you can or cannot, things you cannot say on campus. And if you say them, this school that has told your parents that there's freedom of speech, if you say or break any of these speech guides, you can be expelled or whatever penalty they want to label against you is okay.
Now, are those schools that receive tax dollars?
Yes, they are.
Well, we have a battle on our hands, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be investigating this much deeper as the program progresses. Our guest today, Mr. Brad O'Leary, the book, America's War on Christianity. As soon as we get back, Brad will tell us how you can get the book.
Every Monday at 9 p.m. Central on the Church Channel and at 10 p.m. Central on Daystar, Irvin Baxter presents End of the Age. End of the Age is a 30-minute program which gives intricate details about how Bible prophecy is not only true, but also how it lines up so perfectly with events going on in the world right now. Don't miss one End of the Age program every Monday at 9 p.m. Central on the Church Channel and at 10 p.m. Central on Daystar. Visit endtime.com for more details or call 1-800-ENDTIME.
I felt a call at an early age to win the lost, to do God's will in my life.
I feel like nowadays we have more religion than we do relationship.
A lot of young people today think that they just have done something so bad that they can't be forgiven, or they've done something that's just beyond repair.
Weed wasn't enough, pills weren't enough, alcohol wasn't enough.
You know what, I would say that it's not really about the movies or the popularity or the things that are going on at your high school. It's about Jesus Christ.
He came and died on a cross so my sins could be forgotten.
It is very important to build upon a strong foundation, and you and I are only as strong as the foundation that we build upon.
EYC Radio is a weekly radio program that airs every Tuesday at 4:30 p.m. Central Time. We are discussing real-life issues and figuring out ways to overcome them by using the Bible and common sense. To listen, go to EYCradio.org.
If Islam is one of the 4 great spirits prophesied about in your Bible, wouldn't you agree that it should be a topic you are well informed on? Did you know that the Bible says Islam will control the actions of human beings, leaders, and even governments? Increase your knowledge on this prophesied event by requesting the Islam package. Call 1-800-ENDTIME and request the Islam package for just a $15 gift. Once again, the number is 1-800-ENDTIME or visit endtime.com.
The book, America's War on Christianity. Brad, how can people obtain a copy of your book?